Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor McCroskey?
Here.
Councilwoman Campbell? Present. Councilman Tompori?
Here.
Councilman Royston?
Here.
Councilman Boyd?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, our first item is I make a motion to open the public hearing for the lithium battery storage moratorium.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is something that we've been talking about for the past few weeks. I think we're reaching an end mark where we can vote on this. I'm going to open up the floor to any residents that would like to say something on the battery moratorium.
How long will the moratorium last?
Well, I guess that's
3 to 6 months or
It's either 3 or 6 months. 6 months.
6 months? So then you'll be working on a law to go into our zoning code for this?
Right.
Okay. That's, I just want to make sure.
Any other public comment? No.
My name is Ann Finizzi. I'm from the town of Southeast, and I thank the board and the supervisor for permitting me to speak and to address you all on this very urgent topic. We have here not only lithium, but we have emerging technologies. And I just suggest to you, I know it's quite a task, but I think you should maybe try to also include the solar farms and the wind turbines, including, because these are emerging technologies, and as a matter of fact, what has happened is that, for example, solar farms are pervasive now. A friend of mine lives in Putnam Valley, and there's a huge solar farm right on the border between Yorktown and Putnam Valley. And I thought it was an interesting word, and I love words. And I said, oh, a solar farm. And I think every single time we think of farm, we think of, production and productivity and good things for the people. But they called it a farm because all of these emerging technologies require intensive land. You cannot possibly have a solar farm on 1 acre. You need hundreds of acres. And this is what happened on the border between Yorktown and Putnam Valley. Thousands of trees were absolutely felled, and now what you have is a cover of just a solar farm that you can see for miles and miles and miles. I got a posting from someone that lives on the coast and someone that lives inland. And what has happened is that the eagles are being de-winged, decapitated, whatever, because they are on the flyway. So we have, it's almost ironic and kind of bizarre that environmentalists are using these particular technologies to save the environment, but in actuality, they are destroying the environment. They are really destroying the environment. I have here a submission by the attorney in Carmel. And he also had indicated in his submission Warwick and the 3 other fires. But there have been other disasters occurring in other parts of the country. And so he cited Arizona. And there was a massive fire in a lithium storage. And I just want to read for you. 4 of the team members were severely injured by the explosion. Now, what happened here is that there was a fire, and they had a team in this particular town in Arizona. And the team entered the structure at 8:01 p.m., and 3 minutes later, at 8:04, the facility exploded. What are we going to do? 4 of the team members were severely injured by the explosion. The Fire Safety Research Institute report described in detail how the explosion ballistically propelled the firefighters away from the structure, with one firefighter landing 70 feet away, striking a chain-link fence. The facility housed 27 racks housing 14 battery modules, with each module containing 28 lithium batteries. The facility was smaller. In other words, there are folks who say, well, we don't want these large, but we'll accept a small. Well, you can have a small and a very big fire. And worse that happened. The structure was equipped with units, 4 of which were on the side. At one time of the event, the batteries were charged 90% state of the charge. The BES was monitored through a they had a wireless communication system. Was there anybody there? I mean, when you make your plans, is there anybody going to be on location? In Carmel, they said no, which failed approximately 50 minutes after the first anomaly inside the facility was alerted. So even their communication system failed. What I'm saying to you is that this is new, this is emerging, and what you should really, and I hope you will consider, is a prohibition on all of these emerging technologies, because there really isn't the knowledge, there isn't even the capability of trying to contain whatever occurs in these batteries. And I have now, and I received this just 2 days ago, a legislator who lives in Charlemont, New York, wrote a scathing letter because in his community, he didn't have a lithium battery fire, he had a solar farm fire. And so he said, I call on the Attorney General's office to investigate the company for violating the residents of Charlemont's new constitutional right to clean air and water. When the community accepted the solar developer's proposal, they were trying to go green, not expose residents of Lyme and Charlemont to carbon monoxide, fluoride, hydrogen fluoride, and who knows what. This letter was from the legislator of that particular community. These are the things that are happening, and almost each and every single day, I received some report, and I asked this particular community, and I know you will, take very careful note, because, you know, you really are very fortunate. You have a rear view mirror. To my knowledge, no one has applied to this community either for a solar farm or a wind turbine or lithium. But you know what has happened in other communities. You know their experience. You have that knowledge. And I hope that you will take that knowledge and really have a, well, I wrote to Carmel that nothing less at this particular time than a total prohibition on everything until we have more knowledge, until we know that we can cope, we can regulate, we can establish the safety for our volunteer firemen, for our residents, for anyone in the community. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me. I just have one copy, but it is lithium-ion batteries and their manufacturing challenges. We don't know who makes them, how they're made. A company comes and says, we have the batteries. Does anyone know? Is there a brand name? Is there a Ford or an Oldsmobile? I mean, what is there? And this is a very revealing article. The whole manufacturing of these particular lithium batteries. And all I can say is it no wonder that they are exploding and that they are catching fire every single day of every single hour. Thank you. I'm going to give this. May I?
There was a solar farm proposal once up off of Mooney Hill before I got on the
Yeah.
board. So I don't think I shot down or something. I don't know what it was.
Susan Kotzer, Town of Kent. We talk about lithium. Does anybody know where lithium comes from? Does anyone know where lithium comes from?
It's mined from the earth. You can find it in the ocean.
Yeah,
It's
so-
actually fairly plentiful.
Yeah, so they destroy jungles and forests to mine for the lithium. So go green and rip out all the greenery and destroy the oceans. Thank you.
Hi, Eileen Civitello, Town of Kent. I just really want to reiterate, and we so appreciate Ann coming out because she's such an incredible wealth of knowledge and has helped us with other things. And I just want to, reiterate what she said about expanding this moratorium to emerging technologies. Because, I mean, what are we going to do each time we get wind, pardon the expression, of another emerging technology that we do a moratorium and do separate legislation for that? I see nothing wrong with holding off and exploring what the ramifications might be. And like Ann said, today we're in a perfect position to do that because we don't have, we're not battling, we're not in a defensive pose, We're in a pose of let's educate ourselves. The last thing we want to appear is we don't want change, and that we don't want alternative sources and stuff. We don't want to appear like that. I mean, but we want to make sure that we know what those things entail and what they mean to the residents and our properties and our environment. I'm always really so amazed by Kent, and the fact that, like, the town of Kent, there is nobody on public water in the town of Kent. We are 100% well water. A simple solar farm fire, that could seem, wow, isn't that so progressive, a solar farm and alternative you know, isn't that just so, one fire could just like really devastate the town water supply, just like that, with all such good intentions, you know, because we weren't ready and we weren't knowledgeable about what these things entail, you know. So I think we're in a position to take a moment and to, you know, maybe consider including more than just the lithium battery facilities. Yeah, I'm sort of opposed to calling them farms because of the same reason that Ann said. It seems so, it's not so, you know, just you picture acres and acres of solar panels, and you know, I know when you go to build something, you know that the state and many towns want to know what the stormwater ramifications are for impermeable surfaces. What's just the stormwater ramifications of acres and acres of solar farms? I don't know if these things are really, we certainly don't know. I don't know, as I'm asking the question, do we know as a town? And before we can let these things come, I think we really have to be very, very, very smart about them. So that's it. Thanks.
At the present time, there is local control of all land use. However, the state is gradually intruding into local control. And it has the Rapid Act, ORIS. It has all kinds of bureaucratic structures ready to diminish your authority as our representatives, your authority. And the Rapid Act is supposed to, it was, I believe, adopted in April of 2024. And the reason for it is because they want to accelerate. They want to accelerate the approval process, the permitting process of all of these emerging technologies. In other words, you're too slow. So that they have issued actual dates, times, and places where all of these permitting must take place. 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. Within a year, you need to do that. As a matter of fact, Dinopoly, the controller, issued an audit of 94-C, which was the what shall I say, the progenitor of streamlining the approval process. And he said, with all of the bureaucracy that has been adopted and all the permitting and process and so forth, he said, it's still too slow. He said, do you realize that it took 3 years to approve a solar farm? He said, you got to speed it up because 2030 is coming very quickly, and we're not meeting those goals. And so maybe right now, if we have a developer coming, which I'm quite familiar, we have SECRA. Well, in my view, this is a replacement of SECRA, that the state now is taking over or wants to take over a lot of the autonomy that you have, and really fast track this as quickly as they can. So you have the Rapid Act coming. I believe it's here. You have ORIS. You have people who are working with DEC in order to streamline and to fast track and to accelerate the adoption of all of these various developments, so that the approval process is coming from the state, not you. I mean the town board or the planning board. So it's something that, you know, needs to be also looked at. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay.
May I speak
Oh,
briefly?
yes, sorry.
This is public comment on anything or specifically about?
This is on the lithium battery farm, moratorium, sorry. This is what we're talking about right now.
Okay. So, ironically, our town was just awarded bronze level climate smart certification along with the county. Whether or not you're aware of what's happening with our climate and the mega million-dollar disasters that we now have because of rising CO2 levels, rising temperatures, heat waves, wildfires, extraordinary hurricanes that are not expected at this time of year because the sea is warmer, that just hit Texas, for example. This is happening whether or not you're aware of it or are following the science. This is why the state feels that there's enough of a climate emergency that they have established an office that can actually override home rule, as Anthony Z. just pointed out. So we're in a difficult position. You have to compare what these technologies bring against what would it be to have Indian Point back or other alternatives, or continue to have the ever-increasingly costly disasters due to climate change. So it's a difficult position to be in. I will say that I quickly looked up the fire at the solar farm. It was in the lithium batteries in the solar farm. I think lithium battery technology clearly has a long way to go. It depends on the manufacturer. You hear about buildings burning because of mopeds or e-bikes that have batteries that set on fire, for example. Clearly with these battery farms, it's not necessarily 100% sure that they won't burn or explode. And so personally, I'm in support of a moratorium at this time. I don't think that's the kind of facility we want to have here in Kent. With respect to solar, quote, farms, in a lot of ways it's a low impact use because yes, you might not find it physically attractive and there are ways to screen that. Trees sometimes are cut to build one of these farms if it's not already agricultural land. A lot of farmers have established these solar energy facilities, and you can have plants growing underneath. You can have pollinator meadows underneath, not necessarily harvestable crops. It doesn't have a huge impact on stormwater because the panels are sitting up above the ground. So personally, I would not want to ban or have a moratorium on solar facilities, but I think we need to look at our code and make sure that we have an appropriate code for that. With respect to wind turbines, I don't think we need to be worried about a wind farm coming into this community. If you've ever seen what they look like, the vast scale that they have and the places that they tend to be sited, they are on mountaintops or hilltops, ridges where you have a lot of high winds, where you're relatively far from people. They are in towns mostly in upstate New York. I can't imagine a wind developer coming into this community. Nevertheless, if we have concerns about that, we certainly could look at that as well. But I would suggest for right now, we stay with the moratorium that's under discussion. I think it's pertinent for this moment. One thing that I did hear from our attorneys is that the way this moratorium is written, it would also prevent somebody who has a home lithium battery storage facility associated with their solar panels. And I don't know if that would have a negative impact on our residents. I know some people have put solar panels on their roofs. Whether those are tied directly into the grid where they're not doing battery storage or whether they have battery storage, I don't know. But it would prevent residents who want to do that from having those storage facilities. And as far as I know, there have been no issues with those home storage facilities catching on fire. So I'd be interested to know if any residents would have a problem with us preventing that use. That's very different from the kind of thing they're talking about on the border of Carmel. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions about this that I'm capable of answering, but that's all I have for right now. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'd like to say just the opposite. I believe you're right. When you cut down trees, the good Lord made trees the best thing there is for taking CO2 out of the air, placing it in the ground very safely with oxygen as a byproduct. You can't get anything that's cheaper and does a better job at that. And to cut them down and put up solar panels that require insecticide and pesticides to keep vegetation growing up around them, bees' nests and stuff like that growing on them, you're removing habitat. You ever stand next to something super black, like a solar panel? They're hot. They put off a tremendous amount of heat. So if you're trying to stop, the planet from warming up, I don't know why you'd use a solar panel to do so. So I have a whole bunch I could go all day on it, but I'll just stop right there.
Okay. Any other?
What do you want to do?
Do we
with it?
want to vote on the moratorium for the lithium battery farm and then storage facility, and then start the discussion
Let out the rest of it.
for the wind turbines and other things next time? Is everyone good on voting? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion to close the public hearing for the moratorium for lithium storage facilities.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Okay.
feel like you guys have overloaded me with information, but I kind of agree with the supervisor. We got this one sitting in front of us. Let's just get it done right now. We can work on the rest later.
Yes, that's what.
You good?
I don't know if Ann. Do you want me to repeat what I said, or no? So we're going to vote on the lithium battery storage moratorium tonight, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to look into the other ideas that were brought to us tonight. We're just gonna, this is in front of us, we have this done. Let's get this, started.
So the other idea being, just
The-
to clarify, that a moratorium that would be more inclusive of a
For solar farms, we would talk about it, and we'd have a public hearing for that as well.
We closed the hearing.
I know, we did.
I read the, I guess, the draft of the moratorium, and I was thinking that an inclusive term was emerging technologies, so that you would have the liberty and the freedom to really research and at the same time provide regulations for each of the emerging technology, or for future, we don't know, future emerging technologies. We don't know if this is the end of the line. We don't know if this is the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning. So sometimes the way the way a moratorium is phrased, it can be inclusive and without being exclusive, and without being too specific. So I like the term personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
You ready?
Are you?
You closed the public hearing?
Yes.
All right.
You were here for it.
I can't hear out of one ear.
You told me it was the other ear that you couldn't hear out of.
I tuned this one out.
I know you do.
All right. What resolution are we at?
Do we,
What local law? One.
One? I make a motion to pass a resolution adopting local law number 1 of 2024, whereas a local law establishing a land use moratorium prohibiting lithium storage facilities would introduce as introductory local law number 1, the local law of the year 2024 before the town board of the town of Kent on June 28th, 2024, and whereas the public hearing was opened on July 9th, 2024, and the public was invited to attend and be heard on the matter, now therefore be resolved that introductory local law number 1 of 2024 is hereby enacted by the town board of the town of Kent as local law 1 of 2024 of the town of Kent, and be it further resolved that a true copy of the law is attached hereto and made a part hereof. Make this motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Roll call, please.
Sure. Councilwoman Campbell?
I'm going to vote for this, but I do want to point out that I would have preferred if we had not excluded individual homeowners from having a solar facility on their rooftop that has battery storage. I just wanted to add that to the record. Thank you.
Councilman Santori?
Aye.
Councilman Rissman?
Yes.
Councilman Boyd?
Yes.
Supervisor Kozlowski?
Yes. Thank you.
How many more public hearings do we have?
Yeah, we have 2 more. I make a motion to open the public hearing for short-term rentals.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Does the board want to speak first on this, or do we want, or let residents come up? Okay. Bill, do you want to come up first?
Good evening. Bill Walters, Building Inspector, Town of Kent. Before you tonight, I believe we're voting on short-term rental STRs. I've reviewed most of the documents that you guys wrote. I've got a couple questions. I think we talked about some of them the last time we were there. Most of them are procedural on what needs to be done. I mean, I think the outline's pretty well wrote, where it's laid out. I guess that the one conforming with and displaying of the permits, which would be section F, B, it talks about notifying the neighbors within 150 feet of where the short-term rental would be. After reading it a second time, I think it says the homeowner's responsible, but is that going to be the responsibility of the homeowner to notify the neighbors on all 4 sides within 150 feet, or is that the building department?
Good point. We should clarify that.
I'm sorry, what was that, Nancy?
There's a
Has to be
requirement in
clarified.
here that neighbors within 150 feet of the short-term
Right.
rental be notified, and the building inspector's questioning who does that?
Right.
The homeowner or the building department?
And the answer is?
It doesn't say here, but what's your pleasure? What looks better for your office?
The homeowner.
Well, yeah, definitely the homeowner. I mean, it kind of
And then
suggests the
have to submit
homeowner,
proof?
and that he has to provide proof to the building inspector, which is okay. I guess a lot of this comes down to, when do we get all of this information that we're supposed to document before we do the permit? You know, because it says,
Well, they're going to have to submit it to you before you issue.
right, there's a whole bunch of information that they need to provide to us in section, I guess it would be E, section 5, A through H. There's a whole bunch of requirements that they need to provide the building department so that they can obtain an application. I've started to work on some kind of a form. I'm not sure how it's going to look yet, but I've started to put some of that information together to try to get some of that
Would you
information.
like us to try to get you some samples from other municipalities?
That would be great.
I do think we're not ready to vote on this tonight, that this is something that we still have to talk about.
Right,
I
I
know
mean,
that the lake communities are
We
having some issues.
need to talk about fees, how much
Yes.
the fees are going to be. I guess more importantly, once we settle on how this document's going to be done, what's a start date? I mean, I got to work with a computer company to set it up within our permitting system. We have a pretty good idea how it's going to go, but I need to contact vendors to do that. And it's going to take a little time.
I don't think we have to set a hard date. When you're
Right.
ready to start going into operation, we'll
I mean, when we get close to that, I mean, when you're ready to put the ink to the paper and this is going to be it, I think at that point we need to pick a date so that we have time to get all of this stuff together. We can present you with a whole package is what probably would be the best.
Right.
Can we have that in the resolution, if and when we pass this, that it will start on a...
Yeah, give it an effective date,
A certain
you know.
date other than the date at which we pass it, just have a
Yeah.
time delay in there of some number of months that
I thought
our
we could give
inspector
them a
feels
week.
would work.
There's a good idea. Not a great idea, but there's an idea. Well, like I said, I mean, we're still working through it. To be honest with you, the office has been extremely busy with title searches, and I can't wait for the county to get done with this silly auction. We've been inundated with all kinds of other work. We are looking at this and trying, when I say we, it's me, trying to figure out how we're going to implement this. But
Okay.
other than that, that's about all I have for the STRs.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any other public comment for short-term rentals?
Hi, I'm Nina Charnoff, and I've lived in this area for 7 years. And I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived in Minnesota, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and now I'm back here in New York, but not New York City. And that's my point, is that I have never lived in an area quite so beautiful and so environmentally conscious and such a passion in the people for the environment and the recreation that it provides for us. And so I'm very moved by this topic because I do feel that it does have environmental consequences. I live in a lake community, and one of the things that I have put my energy and time to is to keep not only the forests and the roads, but the lakes and the water in this area clean. When you open it up to people to come into this area on a short-term basis, they don't have an investment in our jewel of a neighborhood, of a community, where it will change the fabric of this place. And so I just wanted to get that, you know, and then I'll get into specifics. There are multiple issues. I looked through many lake communities in the New York State area, as well as across the country. I did I'm sure I didn't get half of the, towns that are dealing with this. It's such a complex issue because I hate the fact that we're put in a position where we are impacting how somebody uses their own private property and also their economics, their financial state. I really do feel bad that I even have an opinion about it because I've always felt that everybody's home is their castle. Unfortunately, there are certain behaviors within homes and within personal property that affect the community. Some of the issues that I saw that came out were lake health, which is my passion. When you have people who come and go, they're only staying for a weekend, or they come in to party, they don't care about the lake health. They look and say, what a beautiful spot. I want to come. I want to enjoy it. They don't care that they're bringing in outside watercraft. They don't care that they're bringing in outside fishing gear. They don't care that they're on a boat and they're tossing in garbage. They don't deal with those the fallout from that kind of behavior. We do. We also, the noise level. I noticed in your proposal, you deal a lot with noise. However, the level of noise that's when you're in an area surrounded by woods doesn't carry like it does on a lake. The entire lake community, I hear noise from the lake 3 miles down the road from me. That's how much it echoes. And so noise pollution is very difficult to control. We have, community members who are all cooperative because we all care about the community. You have people coming in from outside, what do they care? They're having a good time. They're having a party. It could be a couple that rents. I'm not saying everybody is a terrible renter. I actually use Airbnb, but I never realized the impact on communities until now, and I will be changing my personal behavior because of this. Septic system overload, I saw. Houses, I'm so happy that, we just heard that our little department that has so much work to do, how are they going to, really control how many people are in the homes utilizing a septic system that's really made for a weekend home for a couple that doesn't live there full time. And then all of a sudden it's now rented out and there are 10 people, 12 people using it for multiple weekends during the year. You're talking about septic systems that can be overloaded, end up in the leach fields, end up in our water. That is already such a high risk in my mind. Also, as far as quality of life issues, there are things such as safety and disruption of the fabric of our community. When you see what a community is here, look at everybody here. None of you are making $1 million being on the Town of Kent board. All of us do volunteer work here. We all help out. But somebody who, if the number of units within the community are ever increasingly, owned by people who don't live here, who are renting it out, making the money, and not really giving to the community, how is that helping this town? Traffic, speed regulations, the close-knit, knowing your neighbors, the safety of our children. Our fire department is a volunteer, fire department. Who's going to volunteer to be a fireman here if you have a majority, or a huge percentage of homes that are owned by speculators who are just renting? The people I most sympathize with are the people who own their homes and feel that they need to do Airbnb or short-term rentals because they can't even meet their real estate taxes. And that is what I'm struggling with, and how we can go about it and do it in a way that is compassionate, reasonable, but keeps the fabric of our community, our environment, our society intact. This is a jewel. Do not destroy it. Once it's destroyed, you never get it back. Because what everybody says in all the articles that I've read is, once you've lost it, you don't get it back, even after you've revoked having short-term rentals. So I think if you do choose to go ahead and go ahead and implement a plan to have...
We're good? Okay, you can
Okay.
continue.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're starting back up.
Okay. I did want to also, so while my main focus is the environment, I do want to talk about the town economics as I see it. I know there are arguments both ways, and I know that you can parse it and take data and, pick what data you want to show what you want to show. However, I tried to be fair looking at, the different comments that I've found online. While initially property values, seem to increase and homeowners say, well, that's great. Well, it's a false inflation of real estate values that occurs because what's happening when other people come in and buy homes and then turn them into short-term rentals, they inflate the price of homes because they're utilizing it as a business. They're really not utilizing it as a home. They're utilizing it as a business. And as more and more of those get eaten up, then there's less housing on the market, which inflates your property value. On the other hand, as the critical number of short-term rentals occurs, then people don't want to move here because they heard that there's all these short-term rentals here, and then your property values actually deflate. So we have to remember short-term, a lot of the short-term studies, and I looked on Airbnb's website how wonderful it is for, rental, homeowner values. You got to look long-term. You can't look in the first, even decade. Also, some businesses benefit from an increase in tourism. That's why you have to really apply to, what are short-term rentals in this community? A short-term rental in this community means there are less people who are here year-round to go to the supermarkets, to go to the restaurants, to buy their, sundry items from Home Depot locally or whatever local, stores that we have here, or, the little tea shop. You'd get that in a burst in the season, and then the rest of the year, you have already vacated, the base, the population base that will utilize these businesses. And so, again, you could say it's good for business because it brings more people here, but it's also bad for business because these people are short-term residents who are only coming for a few days, a few weeks, and then they're leaving. So that's not going to help businesses long-term. Businesses are going to struggle to be able to hire people because rentals, the most critical part of the working, the workers who work in the restaurant business as checkout cashiers, we need a good supply of affordable housing and rentals in this area. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to hire anybody to work in your store. Forget about it. Nobody's going to move here unless there's a job. So I don't think that short-term rentals help businesses in that way. And other things about short-term rentals is these are homes with kitchens. People come and they like to cook in their house because they've got a crowd of people. I know how I've used Airbnbs. It's because I wanted a kitchen. I didn't go out to restaurants. I stayed in. Yes, I shopped at the local grocery, but I stayed in. I wasn't going out to restaurants. So we have to remember that it's not all positive bringing more people into the area. I'm happy to have people come visit. That's great, but let's do it in a reasonable way that only benefits our community and doesn't hurt it. There are also things that I saw as far as, one study that really tried to tease out how a town could go about allowing short-term rentals, because it's very difficult to just have a ban. I'm not saying that you couldn't. I would prefer that, but if the town board does decide to go ahead, number one, I'm offering my time and effort and energy into helping to put together the regulations if you need help. I'm really happy to do that because we want to do it in a compassionate, environmentally sensitive, and business sensitive way. But there are ways of capping the number of permits, capping the number of days that a property can be rented per year, exempting very fragile ecological areas like lake communities from having short-term rentals. The owner has to live within a certain number of miles from the short-term rental so that you're not getting outside people, corporations, investment firms, coming in and buying up properties and being absentee landlords who really don't give an X. The owner should also be required to live in the house for a certain number of years before they can turn it into a short-term rental. You now have somebody who has lived here. It is a residence of theirs. They do have an investment into this community, and there's a whole different attitude if it's a person who has lived here, who cares about the place, renting. They will have different home rules and different level of concern about their renters keeping within those guidelines. So those were some of the ideas, and that's why I do want to help out. I don't want to just put a big load of work on you. I want to be able to help out and do it in a reasonable and functional way that the town of Kent can do. And you just heard from the building, department sitting over there. You're already short-staffed. How are you, if we have a bunch of regulations and we're not able to enforce them, then what's the use? Then it's a free-for-all. And if you, are so overwhelmed with the amount of work that is being done in this town, and I'm not blaming you or the town, we're a small town. We have a limited amount of people, resources to do our jobs, but we have to be realistic. Can we enforce the regulations that we decide upon or not? And if we can't enforce those regulations, then I don't think we should proceed at all. Thank you.
line up to talk.
I agree with everything she said. Great job. Kathy Doherty, live in Lake Carmel Park District. I still am very concerned about it being in an R10. I think our houses are too close together. I think our lake is already eutrophying now for years, and our septics and our wells, just like you had pointed out, and I think that the houses are too close. I've already had disasters with a house that was rented out for years behind me. I'd have 9 men come in, you'd watch mattresses come in and out, and that couldn't even be controlled. And they were working on cars all the time and everything. So I go, well, short-term rentals. In the law here, it was saying that promote a beneficial way for property owners to monetize extra space in exchange for rental income. Well, if, like she was just saying that, I'm sorry, what's your first name? Nina. That Nina was just saying is that, are they living there? Or, you know, like some of them, the Airbnbs that I saw, that they have to only rent out maybe 90 days in a year, and then the homeowner is in there for the rest of the time. So if they're having trouble, if this is a second house, then they're not having much trouble, so. that's-
Kathy, just where are you reading that out of, just so I can note that?
Wasn't it
Second
page
page of the law.
E or letters?
I'm sorry,
Yep,
it's A, it starts at the bottom of the first page,
okay,
and then it goes on to the second page.
thank you.
You're welcome. I see in here, it says that, and that there, okay, this is the third page, and it is paragraph 4 of C. And it says, and that there are no private covenants, including without limitation, rules and regulations of a cooperative condominium or homeowners association that would prohibit the use of the premises as a short-term rental. So are you saying that they can opt out? Or, so other lake communities like Sedgwick Club, Kent View, Seven Hills, everybody can opt out but Lake Carmel? That's how I read it.
Well,
I could-
Lake Carmel's not a cooperative condominium or HOA.
Right, but you're,
and
yeah,
that's
but
what
there's
it
all
is.
these, I'm talking about lake associations, lakes. We all have these lakes. The only one that's going to be impacted is Lake Carmel, where if you stayed with the R80 and the R40, you wouldn't have to impact us. And D, paragraph 3. The property, this kind of makes me laugh. The property must have sufficient off-street parking spaces in compliance with the requirements of section 77-38 of this chapter to accommodate the maximum of occupancy. Tenants and guests shall park in the off-street parking spaces required by section 77-38. You're going to have a hard time with that in Lake Carmel. It says, shall park in the off-street parking spaces required by section 77-38 of the town code and shall not park on any part of the lawn of the property nor on the street. Well, drive through my neighborhood because they're all on the lawns because there's 3 families and houses, and these aren't short-term rentals. I'm just saying. You just go look at that. And then E, number 5, you have something with the burning. You have the noise ordinance, and then I thought I saw something with fires, but I was going to say that they're only allowed like a burn pit, because you don't want to use the word fires, and now I can't find, oh, here.
Yeah, a statement that all
E,
fires
a
must-
statement that all fires must be attended. Well, you can't have a fire in Lake Carmel, but again, you can have a burn permit, a burn pit, and you might want to say that for the rest of the area also. And G, it gives all the compliance that you have to call, that they have 2 hours to get back to you. Like, I would have to call this person and complain that there's noise, or there's people all over my property because they don't know the boundaries, and I have to wait 2 hours for this person to respond back to me. Or the building inspector who might not be around on Saturday, and it doesn't refer to anything about calling the police. And then, on the last page, paragraph 7, decisions of the code enforcer will be provided to the parties and may be appealed within 30 days of receipt of the decision by the owner of the complainant to a tribunal. We're going to have a tribunal? Yes, no?
We can take it out.
Huh?
We're not voting on this.
Well, I just wanted to pick it out
Yeah.
because I just thought that was a little odd.
Do you have a suggestion for a better way to handle that?
Well, I think they get a violation and they go to the courts like everything else. And I guess one of the questions I wanted to know is how does having these short-term rentals benefit the town, benefit us as taxpayers?
Well, I think this came up because of a different way than you guys are thinking of it right now. It came up because they're happening illegally right now.
Right.
And we needed to find a way to regulate it, because we had no regulations prohibiting or allowing them or anything, that they're just happening. And we had residents coming and complaining that these things are going on, and there was no enforcement. We weren't having our building inspector look at them, we didn't know anything about them, and this gave us an avenue to try to get a grip on what was happening.
Okay.
So I don't know how it benefits the town, other than it allows us to start to be able to control something that seems like it was starting to get out of control.
So could they not get a violation since it's not an allowable use? Now, I mean?
No, they could still get a violation because they were getting violation. Bill, do you want to come up? You know this better than any of us, but they were getting violations.
But while Mr. Walters is coming up to the podium, I will point out that there are residents who depend on this to be able to stay in their homes. And I think maybe there's a distinction between that situation and the other kinds of situations that Ms. Charnoff was referring to.
Currently, because we don't have a regulation for Airbnbs, but we don't allow short-term rentals and the boarding. We're currently writing them up already. Bill Looney is doing most of that. As we get the complaints, then we address those. And then he writes them up, and they go to court, and they either remove it, stop it, and when in some cases, the Airbnb has been removed, they're not doing it anymore, and then we get a phone call from the neighbor 8 months later that it's back again. And we go back out, and we write them back up and get them to stop again. So sometimes, it's, we are chasing our tail going around. But it is being enforced now that if they're not, because they're not allowed. And there's a couple cases I know, I don't say a couple cases, I know there's at least one case in front of the courts now that are waiting on this regulation, if it's going to pass or not. But we are enforcing it now.
Okay.
And most of that's done by Bill Looney.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm looking at the law too, going, it's just another law to enforce. And I think what Nina said is that if you can't enforce it, there's so many code violations now throughout the town. It's just another thing, will the office have to hire more people? Are we, is it going to be cost effective to do this? I mean, if they can violate them now, maybe you have to have the fees, the violations, stronger, really hit them in their pocket, that they stop it. I mean, people used to do that with apartments. They had an illegal apartment downstairs. The inspector comes, tells them to get it out. They move the sink out and the stove, and then it goes back in right as soon as he leaves. So I just think we're just asking for more problems. But again, I'm R80, R40 with more property between them. If you want to try it, I thought maybe I could suggest. Maybe, how about a 3-year pilot program? Let's see if it works, because it's harder to undo a law once you've done the law. But if you
Okay.
Action.
And my last comment was that I was hoping that the town would consider a 3-year pilot program, because once you do a law, it's harder to take the law back, that if you did 3 years and it was not good, then, you'd have a chance to say it wasn't working. And I have talked to a very respectable, oh my God, I can't even think, real estate agent, and she said that it has destroyed some communities. And I understand what you're saying, that you're trying to have an avenue. I just think it's another thing that it's going to be hard to enforce, just like everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for short, yes?
Hello. My name is Mary de Bourbon, like the whiskey, and I'm at 26 Barrett Circle Court on a lake. And I just wanted to say that I totally agree with Nina and Ms. Doherty. I think they're 100% right. And in addition to overtaxing the buildings department, I think you're going to see a lot of police calls because people like to party, and neighbors will call the police. They're not going to wait 2 hours to call the tribunal or whatever it is. So I think you can expect to have to add some policemen or overtime cost. But in addition to that, I see this thing as sort of opening the door to, well, it's a commercial use of a residential zone, whether it's Lake Carmel or Gypsy Trail or wherever. It's there. The town went to pretty considerable expense in the 1970s to draw up a careful zoning map and to put residential areas and commercial areas separate. And to my way of thinking, if I can rent out a room for the weekend or the whole house for the weekend, somebody's going to come along and say, I think I'd like to start a pop-up hardware store in your garage. Can I rent your garage? Or how about I rent your kitchen and I could have a little restaurant here all weekend? I think it's opening the door to commercial uses, unintended commercial uses in residential areas, and I think it's just asking for more trouble. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people coming in who really don't care and who are just here to party, and I think it's a mistake. So don't make it. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, do you want to come up in the back? Oh. You'll be next.
So I'm William Volkman. I live on Rosique Street in town of Kent. And what I've heard from some of the speeches on the short-term rental thing is I think it's all backwards. What's happening is short-term rentals happen, and there's no way to regulate it. So folks are approaching it, trying to understand it as this is a way of allowing short-term rentals. The fact is that short-term rentals are allowed by default because you can pretty much do what you want with your property, but that has an impact on the residents, the neighbors, the town, etc. It's actually a complex issue, and as Ann pointed out off the record, what I have seen is that there are some people who literally depend on short-term rentals or some sort of rental to help pay the taxes and pay the bills. At the same time, you end up in this situation where short-term rentals, Vrbo, Airbnb, etc., have become so popular that it does start to ruin the fabric of the community where people live. And I've been following this for a little bit around New York State and upstate and Long Island, and it's a really interesting situation. In places where taxes have gone way up, it's really hard, and short-term rentals can bring in a nice bit of profit for folks to help keep them in the property. At the same time, the impact of short-term rentals that are going on can affect neighbors. You have parties, and it's not like this law is aiming to open up the door to parties. The parties are already happening. Maybe not here in the town of Kent, but certainly in other areas that are much more vacation-oriented, like the east end of Long Island. You know, a lot of that. And so communities are actually enacting rules to try to restrict this and this behavior. And sometimes what they're looking at, and this is the useful part for the town board here, there's varying degrees to cover that. You can look at anywhere from like 7 days, minimum stays, 7 days, 14 days. Some communities are looking at 29 or 30 days. So you have a minimum stay, and by enforcing or enacting a minimum stay, what that does is that you end up with a more attractive client. Somebody who's not going to come in for 1 or 2 nights and have a big old party and then leave a mess, leave the neighbors annoyed because they were up all night, the party guys were up all night. And then as far as enacting restrictions and controls over the rentals, that's happening too, right? Somebody's renting out their basement apartment or a shed in the back as a short-term rental. The building inspector doesn't even know what's happening, and maybe there's no fire alarms, there's no security controls, there's no fire protection, etc. Whatever is needed to ensure the safety of the occupants isn't happening. So that's the purpose of this law, is to try to rein that in so that you don't end up with some weird disaster, because we don't want to see that happen either. And so, but it is a very complex problem, is what I have learned. And it's an evolving process, is what I'm seeing as well. So it's interesting that the town of Kent, that you all are starting to evaluate this and look at it to understand the problem and what can be done to rein it in. So hopefully that helps some of the others to understand that this type of law is not about opening the doors and allowing it. It's about trying to rein it in and trying to make it more manageable so that it doesn't start to ruin the fabric of the community. And I don't think we have a huge problem here in this town, because we don't tend to be very vacation oriented. We don't have a beach. We have some lakes. They're mostly private, hiking, hunting, but it's not like people come here to go, like in Montauk, people go out there to go to the beach, right? In East Hampton, they go to the beach. So it's different. It's a very different environment. Lake George has a huge problem with this because they have the lake. It's a big lake. It's a very popular touristy area. So, but one of the other factors that does happen is the effect of short-term rentals can displace long-term rentals. I'm not sure that that's happening here either. I don't know if any of you have seen that. In other communities, that does happen, where people who actually work in the community end up not being able to find a long-term rental, a 1, 2, 3 year rental, because it's all gone to Verbo or something like that. Again, the Verbo pays better, but the effect is you can't get people to run your fire department or your coffee shops or whatever, right? So these are all things to consider. Right? But it's interesting. I'm glad to see that you're actually approaching this, and we can talk more about it as time goes on. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
My name's Tom Goodrich. I live on Old Forge. I am on the board of the Lake Sagamore Community Association. I can assure you that our cooperative organization, sharing the time and money and discipline and consistency it takes to keep that lake in good shape. I appreciate the time all of you are giving to this. It is a difficult situation. So far, the 30-day cutoff for rentals has worked for us. We look forward to the opportunity to comment further, and thank you for giving us that opportunity in the future. As an individual community member who sleeps with my windows open and likes to keep my front door unlocked, this is alarming. My bedroom window, which I like to keep open in the warm weather, is about 60 feet from my neighbor's front door. Has a screen door that goes clackety-clack. Just sold. It sold to a family who will be good neighbors. They love the lake. They will share the responsibility for taking care of the lake. I have a friend in the city who's been in the same 500 square foot apartment in which she raised her family since 1961, and only in the last few years has she had trouble sleeping because there is a rental with an outdoor space, well, an apartment, which has become, just in the past few years, a weekend rental. And the parties go on late, and she gets to sleep maybe at 4 a.m. As an 80-something, it is kind of stressful for her. Lastly, as a fire department member, I had someone look up how many calls I've had this year, including one this afternoon. I've been on 82 calls so far this year, and I'm happy to do it. The reason why so many calls just for me as one member of the department is because there are not enough people in this town who can afford to live here who have the time and the interest in being fire department members. Another aspect of the many calls I go on, it's an honor to serve the community. But if it's no longer a community, it would have a whole different feel. So thank you for thinking about this, and I look forward to it. And we on the board and the other members of the association at Lake Sagamore just found out about this today, and we do look forward to the opportunity to share in the communal discussion going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for volunteering.
Yeah,
We-
thanks.
May I just make one?
Mhm.
You know, we are cognizant of the fact that it is a very complex issue, and I think that you have a really difficult task ahead of you to decide what to do. I will throw this idea out because the reason I struggle with it so much is because of what Anne mentioned about some people can't afford to stay in their homes. Nobody wants that. And it is possible that there is a way of having a financial need consideration for short-term rentals with a lot of the regulations, so that you're really controlling who gets to do the short-term rentals and in what manner. And I suspect that the person who can't pay their real estate taxes is a very different person than the person who doesn't live here, who bought the property wanting to turn it into a short-term rental. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to move away from this for tonight, and we'll come back to it at another meeting, a later meeting.
Need a motion to close the hearing?
But we're not,
we're not
we're not
keeping it
closing
open.
the hearing.
No, no.
So,
You could
because
just make a
we're
motion to hold the public hearing open.
Okay, so I make a motion to hold the public hearing open for short-term rentals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our last public hearing of the night is our code changes for swimming pools and height of accessory buildings.
Save the most controversial for last.
Bill, do you want to start this discussion tonight? You're very busy tonight. I know, I think you should.
Getting my steps in.
It must be a long day for everybody. It's super quiet in here right now.
Good evening. Again, Bill Walters, Building Inspector. Which one you want to start with first?
Let's do swimming pools.
They're actually both in
Oh.
one law.
Oh, okay.
Here.
But do you want to start the discussion on the swimming pools first?
I'm sorry?
We want to start with swimming pools? And then we'll go into the accessory building?
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me
It's
to
all
read the whole
one.
thing, or we need to read the whole thing?
No,
Or?
we're not
no,
gonna
just-
the whole thing. We're just making 2 changes to the zoning code.
Right. We're making 2 changes to the zoning code,
Proposed.
basically for swimming pools. In the current code, it says if you have a swimming pool that's less than 5,000 gallons of water, you don't need a permit. And we want to change that because the state regulation has been for nearly 20 years now, is that any pool that is deeper than, let me rephrase that, 24 inches or less, does not need a permit. But if the swimming pool is 24 inches or more, it does need a permit because of safety equipment that's needed. Needs alarms and a bunch of other things. So that's that's what we're changing on that regulation, which is code 77-42. So if it has more than 5, we don't care about the 5,000 gallons. Child can drown in 5 gallons of water, never mind 5,000 gallons of water. But generally, a child that can stand up, in 24 inches of water. So we want to change that.
Okay. So, is there any public comment on the swimming pools? Okay. Now,
Next. The next proposal affects just basically the Lake Carmel District, R10 zones. It deals with the height of accessory buildings. Currently, the current code, 77-31, the height of an accessory building, no accessory building shall exceed the height of 20 feet. What I propose is that in 77-31, the height of an accessory building, no accessory building would exceed the height of 15 feet in an R10 zone. So it would make it shorter. What is happening is that we're seeing some accessory structures that are being built if they have enough property and the zoning setbacks. Some of these garages are bigger than the houses because everybody has big toys now. And what they're also doing is they're making garages with studios above them or storage. That's what they say, storage. And then later on down the road, we find out that they're illegal apartments and they're being used as habitable spaces. So by requiring a 15-foot height on the accessory structure should limit some of that. If a person really needs to have that extra 5 feet, let them go to the zoning board and apply for a variance for that extra 5 feet. I'm not saying they can't have it, but there's a procedure that they should go through to obtain it. So those are the two regulations that we're changing or proposing.
so,
Sure.
I was just wondering why it's not throughout the whole town, because as you were just saying, that they're making apartments above it, so would it be better to do the whole town at 15 feet and let them come for a variance just because of, especially if we have Airbnbs?
Yeah, well, the main reason why I chose R10 was because the lots are smaller, and we have a few now that they really stick out. If a person has an R40 and R80, they have the property. So it's not a big, I don't see it as a big issue on an R40 or an R80 property. You have the property, you can put a bigger building on it. But in an R10 in Lake Carmel, it does, and we've had some issues where people put in large pole barns, accessory structures, and we get inundated with phone calls about them.
Yeah.
yes, we do.
And you figure that probably most structure, you have an 8-foot ceiling, right? And then whatever your pitch is on the roof, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but so let's say it's 5 foot from the top plate to the top of the gable.
Right.
If it's 5 foot, you can still put on a decent building that still has storage up
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's not overly restrictive.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it does put a limit.
Correct. So it's not, you can't walk in it at that point at 15 foot. So
Correct.
that's how you're limiting.
There's less chance that that space is going to be turned into a habitable space.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does someone want to read the, want to read it?
What, Lauren, what local law is it?
2?
Thank you.
Are you going to close that public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing for swimming pools and the height of accessory buildings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you can read it.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution adopting local law number 2 for 2024. Whereas the local law amending section 77-42 entitled swimming pools and section 77-31 entitled height of accessory buildings of the town code was introduced as introductory local law number 2. the local law of the year 2024 before the Town Board of the Town of Kent on June 18th, 2024. Is that correct? Whereas the public hearing was open on July 9th, 2024, and the public was invited to attend and be heard on the matter. Now therefore be it resolved that introductory local law number 2 of 2024 is hereby enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Kent as local law number 2 of 2024 of the Town of Kent, and be it further resolved that a true copy of the law is attached hereto and made a part of hereof. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now let's move on to the actual meeting. Our first item tonight is for our EMS. We are finally ready to approve the ambulance design on our cars. And we have 5 different quotes, and the recommendation tonight is for the least expensive quote for Putnam window tint for a total of $13,800. Any board comment?
I have to admit, I have not seen a lot of detail on this, so,
This
can
would be
you-
to put our, like, they say Lake Carmel on them currently, or Kent, it's, going to be the Town of Kent EMS. So we need to take off the Lake Carmel writing or the Kent writing and put our name on there so that it's associated with the town.
so the word necessary installations in the resolution refers to making those changes?
Yes,
There's
because we
nothing in
can't
addition.
be using an ambulance that doesn't have
Sure.
our name on
I
it.
just wanted to see if there was something else implied by that word installations. And then the transfer is, we're not voting on the transfer as part of this, we're just voting on these changes, correct?
We're just voting on the changes.
Right, okay, it was a little unclear to me. Thank you.
Is there any board comment other than that? No? Any public comment? We went out and we got 5 quotes. Yes, so we actually went to, you're talking about Ultimate, I'm assuming. You're talking about Ultimate?
Eric's Extreme?
Extreme, I'm sorry, Extreme. He unfortunately told us to go to other places because he can't do it. They don't have a building to do it in, so they have to wait till the weather is cooler in order to wrap cars, and they're so far behind that they couldn't even foresee getting us on the schedule. I know, and that would have been great, but we would have been probably 6 to 8 months down the road before they could even schedule.
Yeah, Eric knew about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke to him about it.
Eric actually pointed us in the direction of where to go.
Extreme Design, sorry,
Ex-
Eric is the
I'm
owner.
sorry, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, Extreme pointed us in the direction of where to go. Do we want to read the resolution?
I'll go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve a quote for design for ambulances for EMS. Whereas in connection with the formation of the Town of Kent Emergency Medical Services, EMS, the town has negotiated the transfer of an ambulance from the Kent Fire Department and Lake Carmel Fire District to be used by the Town of Kent EMS. And whereas consistent with the town's procurement policy, the town is in receipt of proposals for necessary installations and the placement of the EMS design on the ambulances and the EMS fly car from 4 vendors, actually I see 5
think it's 5.
vendors, quote, the work. And whereas Putnam Window Tint submitted the lowest proposal for the work in the overall amount of $13,800, and whereas the town board wishes to authorize the town to accept the ambulances from the Kent Fire Department and Lake Carmel Fire District, and accept a quote of Putnam Window Tint to perform the work, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Kent hereby approves the transfer of the ambulances as further described above, and approves the quote of Putnam Window Tint in an amount not to exceed $13,800. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized and directed to execute any documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
By the way, how many ambulances are we?
2.
Okay,
We're getting 1 from Kent and 1 from Lake Carmel.
great, thank you.
Our next item is also for EMS. We are ready to start hiring and onboarding employees. We have a list from our EMS coordinator, Alex Rohner, requesting these 10 employees. The only change I would ask is the first one for the full-time field supervisor, for the start date to be 7/10/24 instead of 7/15/24. Any board comment? Any public comment?
So there's a list of 10 people.
Yes.
Do they all live in New York State?
Do they all live? I believe,
As, you know, the police department, I believe all the officers need to live in New York State.
that's in their contract, in their union contract.
Do these individuals need to live in New York State?
I believe 9 of, I don't know, I don't do their onboarding or look at their, their paperwork and stuff, so I don't look at their IDs. That's my, my confidential secretary is the one that does the onboarding, so I haven't physically seen everyone's driver's licenses. I do think I maybe heard that one of them lived in Connecticut, but I'm not sure about that.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments?
Make a motion to adopt a resolution to hire field supervisor and EMTs for the town of Kent EMS. Whereas by letter dated July 1st, 2024, a copy of which is annexed hereto and hereby incorporated herein, the schedule of hires, Alex Rohner, the Emergency Medical Service Coordinator, has recommended the hiring of a full-time field supervisor and 9 emergency medical technicians, EMTs, in connection with the establishment of the Town of Kent EMS Department, the EMS. And whereas the town board desires to accept the recommendation of Ms. Rohner as more specifically set forth in the schedule of hires and hire the field supervisor and EMTs at the rates set forth herein. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes the hirings as more specifically set forth in the schedule of hires, subject to satisfactory completion of all background checks and civil service requirements. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary action to give effect to this resolution. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item is for a set standard workday for an elected official. This is actually pertaining to myself for my retirement. We have to do this every so many years, and it just happens that I'm the only one this year that needs to do this.
You're retired?
No, I'm retiring.
Thank goodness, I quit working for my dad, so I don't have to fill out a time card anymore.
Nice, my dog just jumped
What is that?
through the thunder.
Is it thunder? Oh.
Yeah. My dog.
I thought it was an earthquake.
My dog just jumped through the window. He does not like thunder.
Okay, any comments on this? We do it standard. No? Is everyone good? Do you? No?
Read it.
Someone?
Make a motion for a resolution setting standard workday elected officials. Town of Kent, whereas the Town of Kent wishes to establish a standard workday for its elected officials. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Kent hereby establishes the standard workdays for its elected officials as set forth on the attached schedule and will report days worked in the New York State and local employees' retirement system based on the timekeeping system on the record of activities maintained and submitted by these members to the clerk of this body. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item is our cell tower, our American Tower. They are asking for permission to make some repairs at the Smoky Hollow Court cell tower site. Nancy, I believe you spoke to them, correct?
I did, yes.
Any board comment on this? Any public comment? Does someone want to read it?
Sure. Make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal of AT&T for equipment upgrade. Whereas the town, as landlord, previously entered into lease agreements with Homeland Towers, LLC, as leasee for sites within the Town of Kent, including a site at 21 Smoky Hollow Court, Kent, New York, hereinafter the lease agreement. Whereas Homeland Towers, LLC, assigned its rights to Insight Towers Development, LLC, which was acquired by Home Tower Corporation. And whereas pursuant to the site lease agreements, the leasee must obtain the consent of the town board prior to the installation of certain equipment of users of the tower on the site. And whereas the leasee is requesting the town board's approval on a proposal for the removal and installation of equipment by AT&T at 21 Smoky Hollow Court, consistent with the plans prepared and submitted with the proposal, copies of which are annexed hereto and hereby incorporated. And now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby consents to the proposal consistent with the plans submitted by Lisi, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes and directs the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is for Parks and Recreation. We are promoting a new crew chief. Myself and Councilwoman Campbell interviewed, and we have decided to promote Edward Swanson to crew chief. Any board comment? Any public comment? Do you want to read it in?
I make a motion to adopt a resolution to promote an employee for Recreation and Parks. Whereas by letter dated July 9th, 2024, Claudia Dvorak indicated that the Recreation and Parks Department wishes to promote Edwin Swanson to the position of crew chief, and whereas the town board wishes to accept the recommendation as further detailed above, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes the promotion of Edwin Swanson to the position of crew chief for the Recreation and Parks Department at the hourly rate of?
I think it should just be as per the contract.
As
union.
per the contract and effective,
Tomorrow?
effective July 10th, 2024.
Perfect.
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And since we're promoting within the department, that means that we will have a vacancy in the department. So now, today, we're also going to advertise to fill for a park maintenance worker. I believe on the resolution, it says seasonal park maintenance worker, but this is a permanent position. Any comments? Okay. Any public comment? Everyone's good? Someone want to read it? Just take out seasonal, please.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for a park maintenance worker. Whereas the town of Kent is seeking to fill an open position of park maintenance worker for the Recreation and Parks Department, and whereas the town of Kent wishes to advertise for applications to fill said position, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes this town clerk, Yolanda D. Capelli, to advertise for applications for the parks maintenance worker position for the Town of Kent Recreation and Parks Department. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to add an item to the agenda from our code enforcement officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I received these late yesterday afternoon. They're to correct 2 violations. One is at 15 Vernon Drive, and one is 23 Barrett Hill Road. William Looney, our zoning enforcement officer, tried to get 3 bids. Unfortunately, 2 of the 3 companies did not submit, so the lowest bid is, and only bid, is for JB Affordable Care, Inc., for a total of $200 for 15 Vernon Road and $150 for 23 Barrett Hill Road. Do you guys want to see the pictures?
Just remove shrubs and stuff.
Shrubs and brush.
Okay.
So, as long as the board's okay with that, I will make a resolution. Sean, do you want the pictures? Okay. Is everyone, no public comment? Okay.
I will make one comment. I didn't see the pictures closely enough, but at some point, we may want to revisit the question of if somebody has the equivalent of a pollinator meadow, and they're letting wildflowers grow, which is very different from having, shrubs encroaching on the neighborhood and that kind of thing. That, that might be something we would be more tolerant of, but I think this rises to the level of needing intervention.
Okay.
Yeah, we could always designate areas of a lawn for that kind of fauna and stuff like that, for sure.
Okay. Okay, so I make a resolution to authorize JB Affordable Lawn Care to fix the violations for 15 Vernon Road in the amount of $200 and 23 Barrett Hill Road in the amount of $150, and the cost of this will be put back onto the residents' tax bill. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
You beat me. Aye.
Okay. Since Chris is not here, he passed along the voucher list to me, so I guess that's what I'll be doing now. So I ask the board to approve the following vouchers that are over the threshold from July 9th, 2024. Barton and LaJudas DPC, $11,875. for a Lake Carmel Community Center evaluation and $20,025 Lake Carmel Community Center renovation. Semco Water, $2,739.97, June Water District 2 bill, and $25,130.13, June Water District Number 1 bill. Global Montello Group Corporation, $4,035.52 for diesel, $6,349.11 for gas, $5,003.74 for gas. Intercounty Paving Company, $231,361.77, paving of South Nap. JTR Transportation, $2,500 for the Kent Seniors Transportation. KL Malden Inc., $3,955 for Cow Bay Sand for Lake Carmel beaches. Kent Public Library, $14,980, computers from ARPA funds. Magna 5 MS, $7,519.06 for July network services. Managed Technologies of New York, Inc., $2,769.24, IT support from June 17th to June 30th. New England Aquatic Services, LLC, $33,250 for Lake Tibet hydro raking. NYSID, $23,004.96, $12,124.31, and $4,380.15 for the LGRMIF project. Peckham Industries, $8,497.49 for blacktop, $10,967.30 for blacktop, $12,304.81 for blacktop. Pitney Bowes Reserve Account, $3,000 for postage. PKF O'Connor Davies, LLP, $29,775 for the progress bill for the 2024 audit. Ring Squared, $3,921.43 for the July phone services. Toshiba Business Solutions, $2,189.29 for the copier's lease. Town of Kent Municipal Repairs, $3,914.73. Chargebacks for police for May, $2,569.09. Chargebacks for sanitation for May. Treetop Products, $2,102.49 for the Robert Sports Memorial Bench. Vanderwater and Vanderwater, $7,802.25 for the Article 78. Wind Waste, $9,666.99 for Lake Carmel garbage, $9,263.99, and $9,733.87 for Lake Carmel garbage. And Royal Carting, $6,572.90 for recycling for their garbage. I ask the board to approve these.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Vouchers. I have a few announcements. Tomorrow night we'll be hosting our second movie night of the season. We're showing Ratatouille out on the lawn at dusk. We'll have popcorn. You can design your own chef hat. So come out tomorrow night. And on Saturday we're having our second farmers market of the season. It'll be from 10 to 2 outside at Town Hall. So we had a really great turnout last time, and I'm hoping to have the same turnout this time. We have some different vendors and a lot of returning vendors. Let's see what else. Oh, on August 6th, it is night out for the police department. We are going to have a movie night outside. There'll be food and ice cream, and it's just a big community event with Recreation is doing it with the police department. So mark your calendars for August 6th, and also that means that next week we're going to have to discuss the August 6th board meeting to decide what we want to do, because we can't be in two places at once.
Oh,
So,
the shred event.
oh, the shred event, yes. Thank you. The shred event is also, what's next Saturday's date?
I thought it was the 20th.
Oh, it's, yes, next Saturday, the 20th. From 9 to 12, we will have our shredded event outside. Sue actually asked some questions, so now I have the answers to all this. You just have to remove it out of binders. It can have staples on it. You don't have to take the staples out or anything like that. It will shred it all right in front of you. And the e-waste shed will also be open from 9 to 12 that day. So stop up here and get rid of all your extra papers that you need shredded and your e-waste that you've been storing. And Saturday, July 20th. And that's all I have. I know, oh yes, okay. This isn't a fun one, this is a,
You want me to do it since it's not?
no, it's okay. I actually contacted DOT today because if you've noticed, if you come off 84, they have these signs, like garbage bagged out, so you can't see what they say. And unfortunately, it's not great news for us because they have to fix a culvert. Yes, but they anticipated being able to keep half of the road open while they did it, but unfortunately the culvert has slid and it's created a hazard, so the road will be closed for it'll be closed through October. So when you come off of 84,
Route 311.
Route 311, when you come
Heading
off
toward Patterson.
Yes, you're not going to be able to go from Kent to Patterson that way. You can go down Lettingtonville Road, that's how they'll be, I guess, encouraging people to make their way towards Patterson, but.
Okay, so I thought it was the entrance and the exits of 84. So you're saying I'm going down through left?
Right past,
Patterson.
yes.
You can get on 84 and off 84.
You can get on and off.
Right, but after.
You can't go straight to
If you're
Patterson.
westbound lane, if you're coming off the westbound lane, you can turn left, you can't turn right. So that section up to Ludingtonville Road will be closed.
So it's between 84 and Ludingtonville?
Yes.
Correct.
I just want to tell my son, because he works for us, so he comes home, he lives in Pauling, so he'll have to go down Fair Street and come around.
Or he can come, if he's in Pauling, he can come Mooney Hill Road, come Ludingtonville, and come up 52. Just that one little section, well.
But
not
it's going
little.
to be a pain.
It's gonna be, because it's gonna back traffic up, you know that.
And they were hoping that it would be open before. They actually did not really tell us, right? The chief and I had to do a little investigating to find out what was going on. I didn't see it on Facebook. Despite what people think, I don't see everything on Facebook.
It's a good place to avoid.
I know. But yeah, so just plan accordingly. It's going to be a long few months, I think. So that's all the good news I have.
Okay. And it's late, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about events at the library, but there are lots of great things happening especially for youngsters, with the summer weather and the kids home from school. Check it out. There's the Tinker Lab, decorating and craft projects, and so on, reading buddies. And there will be community hikes this coming Saturday for adults, 11:30, and also on August 10th at 11:30. There's some wonderful trails right here at Town Hall. It's great property, and so this is your chance to explore and find out what we have in our backyard. And that's all I would have. Thank you.
You good?
Kathy, you were talking the other day about the sewer district and grants. Did you want to say something about that? Perfect.
Sean and I were at the diner, at Lou's Diner with Matt Slater, and I had brought up about the water quality improvement project. And it is going to be tight again, but July 31st is the last date. But I told him about, maybe we could get money for the smart water meters. And he's encouraging us to go with this grant because, as he told Sean, that let's say we don't get it this year, they kind of guide you of what you needed for the grant and that you'd have a better chance the next time. But he absolutely encouraged that this be done. So,
This is the same DEC WQIP program that we're already applying to with the two applications?
Didn't he say that it was something different?
I thought it was the WIA, but he said far away multiple times at the WIA grant.
Yeah.
Oh, WIA, not WQIP. Yeah, so we've already applied.
But you didn't put down for...
No, we have the two applications in, I think Sean's well aware.
This one's July 31st.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
For the PFAS and also for the water
Infrastructure,
distribution.
yeah.
But can you add that to it for the water meters?
Possibly. I'll talk to Barton and LaJuice about it. and
Okay,
see
so
what they can do for
that
me.
was my other
Well,
question.
hang on a second, Chris, because this,
That's
Sean,
right.
this
No
is,
insult taken.
this is going through the grant firm.
No,
right?
just
So-
as far as I'm talking to Barton LaJuice about helping to set the sewer district up a little better. So from like some professional advice that we're going to get from them, so.
Right, that
Well-
I understand.
Do you want
Yeah,
this
so we'll
back,
go
or can I keep
through
it?
the,
Yeah.
water meters,
No,
types
no.
of water meters, so that if we're
I
going to
just
apply,
wondered,
we'll probably have to
so-
have model numbers and all that kind of stuff, so.
Well-
What I'm saying is, if we're going to modify the grant, I don't know that they've actually submitted it yet. Do you know, Jamie?
I don't know, I haven't.
Because you would have had to sign
Well,
off.
those are two water districts. This will be separate. This will be the sewer district. Be a different project altogether.
Right, but what, so you're talking about a third separate project?
correct,
You're not
yeah.
talking about tacking it on to one of our existing
correct.
applications?
That's correct.
All right, we were already advised to not necessarily even have 2 applications, let alone 3, because of competition, and it is a bit late in the game, but
But Matt didn't think it was a big deal. He said absolutely put in for it.
Yeah.
And like, you're talking 40 smart meters, and that's something we're going to need, no matter what Barton and Judas says, we're going to need those. So we should put the grant in now, because again, what are you going to wait a whole other year? I mean, it's.
do you know what those, roughly what kind of money we're talking about, ballpark?
I honestly don't know.
What does a meter cost?
I don't know, because I don't know what model or what they would have to be. I mean, Fishkill did put them in, so there are other places that have put them in, but I don't know if it's the same.
Because I agree, it sounds like a really important thing to be doing. I'm just not sure that
Well, just
3
put
weeks
smart
before the
meters in and
deadline,
put,
whether
a
we can pull that
ballpark.
together.
So, well, I figured at the meeting of the 18th, maybe you could have it ready so that you could send it in, because it's the 31st is the deadline. So have you hired Barton and LaJudas to do the sewer district, or what are we
They're
doing?
coming in on Thursday because they're trying to get a grasp on it, because there's just so much information. So you will know, because we have to go into contract with them.
Right, so you
We have
don't,
to-
and, you're right, there'll be a scope of.
Yes, because we have to pay them. So we're not, I'm hoping after Thursday that they'll be able to get us something by the, what's?
The 16th, I said the
Yeah,
18th, the
okay.
16th meeting.
Yes, the 16th.
Yeah. It's just an advisory, discussion, and to see whether they want to even take it on, just pointing us in
They
the
want to
in the
see the
direction.
information that we have here, because not
Yeah.
everything is, we can't scan everything, and they want to come here and physically see what we have on the sewer district.
So it would be a tight timeline to get that done through our grant firm in 3 weeks.
I just saw it
It
in.
would require some kind of an estimate
Mm-hmm.
that would, some kind of a quote from somebody for what we think we need, and also a narrative has to be written with the justifications. So,
Well, I think if you contacted maybe Fishkill or something, that you would find out how much. the
Fishkill or
smart-
East Fishkill? Fishkill?
I think it was just Fishkill, but I mean, I Googled smart water meters in, the area.
Okay.
And it came up with different ones. But again, I don't know the size, I don't know, I would think it'd be pretty simple, but, we're only talking 40 right now, so,
and, EFC is the organization that I think reviews these, and that's where we got the advice to only apply for 1 project. We went ahead with 2.
Okay.
Not sure if it makes sense.
Well,
to
again,
go for 3
I
right
know
now.
Sean's saying it's a third one, but maybe it can be just, put on the bottom there that would be included, because I think it says, 25% for wastewater treatment
Yes.
on that paper, it said like 25%. So I think if you look at what it allows, just tack it on.
Okay, so
I know
you
I'm
do think
simplifying
we'd
it.
go not on the PFAS one, but on the other?
No, neither one. Those are 2 water district items. This will be a completely different thing for the sewer district.
Well, I would ask the grant people how to,
Yeah, we'll just,
a
we'll figure it out.
recommendation from them
I'll talk to Melinda.
of how to do it, without messing everything up. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. While we're talking about the monies that hopefully come in through the WIA grant for the 2 water districts, it would be good to have people volunteer for those water district committees, so that we can, if the money does come in, we can decide how to spend those monies, and so they can have input on it. So if anybody's out
In
there,
the water districts, there are people that are sort of like the leads of each one, so I think we would put this out to them. that
all
way.
right, yeah, so we'll
We don't wanna
advertise
go over
for
their
it.
heads.
Throwing it out now. For the fireworks, we raised a record amount of money this year. A lot of businesses and local people were very generous, so I'm going to read out a list of those who donated to the fireworks this year. I hope everybody enjoyed them. I know the weather wasn't the best, but I thought the fireworks
I thought
were
it was
great.
perfect weather.
So we got Eileen Civitello, landscaping and design, Martha Collins, Sandra Riccio, I'm sorry about that if I butchered your name, Three Brothers Restaurant Pizzeria, Owens Car Care, Boyd Well Drilling, they're the second best pump people. Then there's H2O Services, then the House of Wine Liquor, that's up in the Kent Center, Anthony's Jewelers, Lake Carmel Pharmacy, Gappy's Pizza, Metric Motors, Danny Doyle, Chemco, Johnson's Tree Service, Traffic Lane Closures, Insight Engineering, George Hartshorn Paving, Cassidy Plumbing, Tony and Beth Marcage, is that how you would pronounce her last name? She raised $500 privately to give to the fireworks. JPE Auto Repair, right down 52. This looks like Gino's Deli gave money. The Curtis family did. Paul Camarda did. CN Wood Company. They're actually the heavy equipment company that's down where Pine Bush used to be. So they were good. Carmel Kent Chamber of Commerce gave. Barton and LaJudas. Pro Master Flooring, which is Kevin Quinn. I always looked up to him, mostly because he's 6-something foot tall. Tony Edinizio and Pat Madigan. That's pretty much the list of people who gave for the
Thank you
fireworks.
for everyone who donated. If we missed anyone, we're sorry.
Yes.
But no, it was a great show, and I think we can beat the record next year.
Oh, boy. We're setting the bar at 5 again.
You can do it, just start now. All right, any other board comment?
Our videographer just wants us to know that there were numerous power outages, and this video will be edited together.
Okay. Any public comment? Does someone?
Thank you for rolling with that. No pun
Yes,
intended.
yes. Does someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to
Adjourn?
adjourn,
Period.
period.
Second.
Stop.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See everyone next week.